What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Boyce, and you're here for another episode of the Faqs Project. Today, two very special guests, a anthology series that I've talked about in detail. The first, actually, three I've had the ability to do a video review of, but I have now Mark Russell and Jok here to talk about Vanishing Point, this great sci-fi anthology series. So thank you both for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Absolutely. So to get right into this, of course, I'd like to say that the storyline itself dives into a lot of, there's bits of horror in this. There's bits of thriller in this. And of course, this encompasses a lot of sci-fi. The one that just released, Vanishing Point issue 4. Jok, you had your hand in this. That the issue is called Proof of Life. And it is about a robot who is being put on trial for being a sentient being because he is coming off as being more alive than what he comes off as. And the twist that you've done in all four of these issues has been fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And actually just like to pull the cover off the twist in issue 4. Jok, and we could talk about this. I guess we could give a little bit of spoilers for issue 4.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Don't give away the twist, but yeah.
No. And that's the big thing. So in Proof of Life, it's a robot consciousness trial. So if a robot is found sentient, it must be destroyed. What defines being alive?
Well, that's what they try to decide in the trial. And the answer I come up with is if you can imagine something better, or if you can rebel against the life you were given. To me, that's the real test of alive. It's not just surviving. It's not just doing what you're told. It's coming up with a life that improves upon the one that you were given before. To me, that's the test, whether or not you're alive, not necessarily whether you're breathing or thinking, but whether you are creating your own life inside yourself.
Mm. Now, as far as like drawing this up, Jok, now when you were putting this together, and of course in collaboration with Mark putting this together, uh, the aspect of making an animatronic robot feel alive, how does that come off on the page?
The first things I have to say is that I'm a big fan of Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov. So I've been a reader as a teenager and also as a young adult. So all these images that came to my mind all the time I was reading those books, I believe I went back to those influences in the narrative aspect, and then I was kind of related to this kind of conflicts with robots getting. I'm a big fan of Blade Runner and Philip K. Dick and everything. So it was quite natural for me to start sketching the characters. But I have one very good note by Mark and the people at Mark that robots should look like robots and humans should look like, and we have to make this. This is important for the story to make this very obvious. But on the other hand, I wanted the robot to look human beyond his actual design. You have this body language. You can say when he's worried or he's afraid, and that was the key element of acting and working with the character. I mean, he looks like a robot, definitely, but also acts like a human.
Right.
When he moves his hands and he looks, and this is the experiment. This is my intention. I hope I made justice to the script, but this was the challenge. He looks like a robot, but he should feel human.
I definitely got that aspect, especially as a reader. Um, when basically he's being questioned, or I'm saying he as if he's human, like but when he's being questioned as to himself being a sentient being alive, he's even questioning the fact, well, what does that mean? What is alive? Like what is your current definition of that? So it's almost like how do these and I'll say this. Issue 3, cell structure and also proof of life. You have alien beings, alien prisoners, and then you have robots and proof of life. How do these others force us to confront that what we assume about humanity?
Well, yeah, I think it forces us into a state of empathy, where, or in the case of the robots, forces us out of a state of empathy, where we're just forced to ask ourselves clinically, what does it mean to be alive? And we're not really putting ourselves in the place of the robot. We're just thinking, what would it take for us to acknowledge another being as being alive? Which I think is at the core of what a lot of the series talks about. What does it mean for you to actually be alive, and what does it mean for you? How do you recognize life in someone else?
Hmm. Definitely. Now, as far as like humanity's take in this particular storyline in Proof of Life, Jock, I'll say this: would you say that the character that you created, was he flawed in some sort of ways? Was he forced into his choices because of the twist that happens in the middle of the story?
The another big question is what happens when you're not doing what the system tell you exactly what to do. So
Hmm.
what is the response from that system? We use like we established like a hostile atmosphere to this questioning when the humans start talking about the robot, about his um, what does it mean? What is happening inside of his head? And and well, the idea was to make things a little bit scary. This is like a weird vibe in weird colors, and when he's been questioned, and I picture it as like what happens when the system is not happy with what you're doing.
Hmm.
And this is what inspired me to go through those to this first scene, and then come the twist, and things keep moving forward. But I wanted to establish this idea of this again. The lead looks like a robot. He acts human,
Hmm.
and the system is hostile to this notion. I believe that that is one of the key of this story. Beyond the bigger question is what does it mean to be alive, to be aware of your own self.
Definitely. Now, I'll say this: in what ways is humanity like these characters that are in these books? And I say, for instance, what we talked about earlier, like cell structure and proof of life, and like in what ways are we to avoid thinking of them as having value?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that allows us to deprive the value from our own lives and from those of others is feeling beholden to a system, is feeling like, well, I'm here to play a role, I'm here to function as I was told, and that's what not only allows us to like conceive of ourselves as something other than human or something other than alive, but allows us to like judge other people when they uh as having no worth beyond their ability to serve within the rules of the system. And I think we do that on a daily basis here. We
Mhm.
tend not to see each other as human beings, but to see each other as functions. It's like you don't think of the barista as a human being so much as you think of them as the barista. You think of them as the person who makes your coffee.
Yeah,
And I think this is where civilization became truly dangerous for humans, is that it allowed us to stop thinking of each other as family and allowed us to start thinking of each other as these really narrowly defined economic roles.
hmm,
And that's the point at which we started sort of conceiving of ourselves as machinery.
dang. Jock, now, how do you think, as far as this story is concerned, how did your story in particular treat identity?
I'm trying not to avoid any spoilers for the reader, because this is like it's a short story, and we need that mechanics to make it work. But um, I don't know. I think, like Mark said, we've uh, we are too close to obey logarithms
Hmm.
and to be less in touch with our nature, that is to be gregarious, to get together, to cooperate, and many people laugh at that thought nowadays because
Yeah.
we have given up or given that for granted, and the next thing is to belong to this machinery, and I believe this matter is very well reflected in this, even though it's short, it's quite powerful because it makes you think of, uh, of things going on. It is sci-fi, everything. We have
Yeah.
robots and all, but on the other hand, like good sci-fi makes you wonder, what are we doing? With how far have we come with these mechanics roles, and how come this robot behaving like a human being is a mistake
Mhm.
in this system. So hopefully this resonates in the heads of our readers, and of course, it's about having fun, and it's a bit scary and has all
Yeah.
these sci-fi elements. It's supposed to be fun, but again, if on a second thought you can relate to it in another, um, even if some further thought, it would be great for readers.
Yeah, I almost felt like in reading these four books, like of course I loved every single story of it, but I almost dived a little bit more into my own psychology. And that's probably why most of the questions that I like came up with were more so geared towards the human psyche than anything. I mean, those were like the bigger things. Like for example, like what is consciousness without memory? Like if or better yet, even in the first book, Screams, isolation. Like what is sacrifice and risk and mental deterioration amongst somebody who was put in a situation like almost like a capitalistic situation to where like okay if I reach my quota I get to go home or I got to be in space for like the next 10 years like the situational awareness like is just completely lost in your head. You're like yeah I can do it, but at the end of the day it's like the madness just occurs, just comes out, it comes out of nowhere and it takes over.
And I think the madness in his case stems a lot from realizing exactly what it was he was doing. Like he was probably could have made it perfectly fine without, too many problems if he had just imagined he was harvesting rocks, just harvesting asteroids. But when he realized he was killing living beings, it's like suddenly the knowledge of the misery and the what the price is for him to pay to provide for his family's future. That's what's maddening. It's
Yeah.
knowing what you're doing, and I think that this is sort of why a lot of us sort of try to blithely ignore the consequences of our actions, or what it is we're doing in our jobs, or what it is the companies we work for, or whatnot, because to know too much about how the sausage is being made is to sort of go crazy a little bit. It's to then have be confronted with the moral choice about can you even though you didn't choose this, even though you're being paid to do this, can you really absolve yourself from the responsibility from the things you are doing with your own two hands?
Mhm.
And I feel like most of us choose to just sort of not think about it because we do participate in the murder of other people and the destruction of the planet in ways we can't even really fully appreciate or abstain from. I mean, there's just a certain amount of destruction that comes with being a human being who's like drives a car and goes to the grocery store. And so I think most of us choose just to not think about it. And
Yeah.
what's unique about that character is that he's not doesn't have he no longer has the luxury to not think about it because he can hear them scream. And so he's reminded every time he does his job the cost, the destruction of that job. And I think for most of us, not just him, that would drive us to madness.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that because is that a case of more so looking inward rather than looking outward. Like I'm more worried about my own self-being rather than the the effect that it might have on lives outside of what I do.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's the way they do it is they sort of weaponize your empathy and your care against you. It's like you want your family to have the best. You know, you care about, even though you're not going to see them for 10 years, you want your kids and your wife to have everything they need, and you want to provide for their future. But you can only, but the price for doing that, or the only way you can do that, is by destroying somebody else's family, and most of us will choose our own. And so it's taking a good thing, like wanting to take care of your own people and wanting to take care of others, and using it in a way to get you to destroy people who you maybe don't care quite as much about.
Mm. Now, Jock, as far as the construction of the artwork, there's of course a big piece of thriller because of the twist, and there's a big, of course, the enormous entity of sci-fi. How do you blend the two? Like as far as creating something that's more so futuristic, um, what what notes did you piggyback off of Mark with in order to create Proof of Life?
Yeah, it depends more on the, I'm really focused on narrative devices, and also I love the to mix genres. I love when stories do that, and when you have to take care of two different sources of inspiration and references. So, it's, as you say, you have a mixture of thriller and with a stressing situation, you have someone abducted um, out of his own will, he's a prisoner. And then the other side, I'm a sci-fi fan, but I didn't want to go too far on the sci-fi because I didn't want to distract readers from the atmosphere, from the thriller thing, the sense of menace and the humanity of this robot. So I stick more with the thriller aspect of things and narration and having this uh, mm, angle and camera positions to enhance the questioning and the stakes of the robot, knowing that he will be honest, responding the answer, but he could also endanger himself by doing so. So I really focused more on, in the first part, at least, in the theater aspect of the narrative, and giving it a certain rhythm and a certain heavy atmosphere, along with colors and black masses, and then we move on more to the sci-fi aspect of things, uh, moving to the end of the story. And I'm a big fan of sci-fi, so I love to make up stuff and you know uh, even designing robots. I have many different designs of for the character. Then we choose the one who look just right, um, and that's it. I believe that when you have the mixture genre mixture in the story, it depends on the scene. You can rely on more on one genre than the other, and then you keep playing with the doses of the elements required for each genre. And I believe this is like cooking. You have
Yeah.
this recipe with these elements, and then uh, you have two big sources of references to rely on, and then you have to choose depending on the scene and what mood you want to put the reader into.
Nice. Now, now let's if we can, because each of these issues talks about. Well, I can't talk about. Each of these it has a twist. Now, of course, Mark, I believe I read something where you said that the twist isn't the point itself, but it's what lets us ask questions.
Yeah, the twist should be the culmination of the questions that you're asking, like as the series is going along. It's sort of my answer to the questions, and but I wanted to write it in such a way that you're thinking about the story and engaging it as you're going. You're not just reading for the plot. You're not just turning the pages to figure out what's happening, but you're also sort of asking yourself, well, how would I act in the situation? What would I do? Or what do, who do I relate to in the story? And then the twist is more my answer of like, well, this is what's happening. And now I want you to ask yourself again.
Definitely. Now, also as well, what was it? Tomorrow Family. When you have this man going through almost like the last moments of his life, and he is resonating the one thing, probably one of the last good moments that made him essentially very happy. What made you want to choose the cartoon that was kind of like reminiscent of something like the Jetsons?
Well, I wanted to write a story about the future that was showing like the future we could have versus the future we probably will have, and in the Jetsons sort of for legal reasons the future family because
Yeah,
they it's the future family or the Tomorrow Family.
Tomorrow
Sorry,
Family.
the Tomorrow Family is the futuristic cartoon family in this issue, but in a lot of ways I wanted it to use that as like sort of a visual cue that most people have for like, oh, this is the future we all thought we would have. We'd all thought we'd have
Yeah,
flying cars. We
by
thought we'd live
now.
in like little bubble houses in the clouds and that we'd have like a dog with a jetpack or whatever. And to think about how different the trajectory we are actually on is and why that is.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Jock, how do you say that artwork and design of the comics contribute to the horror and the twist of the books?
I have to be very, very careful to not give away anything from the twist, to give no hints on the graphic side of things, you know. Um, I just, the script was perfect. I just needed to stay away and just do my job and not spoiling anything for the reader. So I went along with the. I believe having the first scene right was the key, and then I could easily move on to the twist part and. Keep working of the body language of the characters that
Hmm.
were like well defined, and despite the twist they needed to be consistent because you have to protect the credibility of the story all along. So I didn't want to go too crazy with the twist and keep it calm because it's like more intellectual thing than graphic, and it's not an explosion of information rather than a revelation that is more important what goes on in the reader's mind than in the actual page. So I wanted to take it uh, mm, slow, like more like an adult thing. Um, these are of course my intentions. I don't know if I succeeded.
Hmm.
Readers will say that. Mark will
Ah,
say
you did.
that.
Yeah, I would say
Uh,
it's safe to say you did.
You did.
thanks so much. And but it was really. I knew I had to be careful, but on the other hand, I have so many stories read. The Isamov work of the literature. I mean, Ray Bradbury. I have all this in my head all the time, so just seemed like a natural decision and was not forced. And I shared my thumbnails with Mark and with Mike Martz at Markay, and they were like on board with uh, the idea of the narration of the scenes, and so it all runs smoothly. We were like in the same page, so I knew I had to be careful, but it was not hard taking those decisions. You know, it was quite natural, and I'm happy Mark agreed with my view of those scenes.
Understood. Mark, So, as of recent, sci-fi anthologies in major mainstream things, Black Mirror, Love, Death, and Robots, is it safe to say it's better to is it better to put a lot of sci-fi in like short aspects because they're always telling a message? Is this what you want try to accomplish?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell. If you're telling a story, it's more about the characters, watching them develop, seeing we're dealing with one big issue. It's probably better to write a novel, write a movie or whatever. But if what you're writing is sort of a parable, sort of like a fable, or the point is not necessarily developing the characters and watching them change and grow as people, but like trying to get a concept across, a philosophical concept across to people. I think a short story is a much better format for that, much better medium. And so I wanted to write an anthology that just contained a lot of these sort of fables of issues and ideas that I've been thinking about for a long time. And so the format, I think, just sort of kind of perfectly worked with what the kind of stories I wanted to write about that get people to think about the questions I've been asking.
Hmm. Definitely. Now, also as well, I know we talked about the cost of the human aspect, whether it's been in the first issues with Screams, but in issue three, uh, survival is looked upon amongst those alien prisoners as something beyond the human condition. Would you say so as well?
Yeah, they. I think at some point they don't expect to survive this process. They're being experimented on in a top secret or top security lab, and none of them expects to get out. And then when one of them does get a chance to sort of escape, it opens new possibilities to him, and also it shows that like life, no matter how miserable, is never quite defeated. It's never quite extinguished as long as it's like the saying where there's hope, there's where there's life, there's hope. And I feel like it's never too late to try to salvage something from existence. Is kind of the attitude of the prisoners in this book.
Hmm. Now, Jock, as well. In this particular story, in Proof of Life, how would you say, from an artist point of view, that you create emotional impact?
Well, I believe the once an actor told me that body language was like 80% of communication. So maybe that's too much. I don't know, but this concept really interests me. So I believe that through body language and acting, you can create a certain uh, emotion and you know an echo of the character's constitution when but uh, in an outside manifestation of his body of his movements.
Right.
And I believe that I always tend to pay special attention on acting. Also, you have just not to focus too much on the actual drawings because that's the obvious thing. But also, we have we don't have music or sound in our medium. It's
Yeah.
comics. You have the paper and lines, but we do have colors. We have our soundtracks can be manifested through colors. So using color to to generate some kind of atmosphere and mood in the reader. If you go through those pages again, you will see there is an intention behind each palette on page after page. So hopefully these elements that are a bit less, maybe less obvious than the actual art, but narrative, the way you put the camera and the body language, and you have the color palettes going on.
Mhm.
This is why I'm always focused more on the narrative side of things, and I believe these are the elements that get the reader into a world and into emotions, hopefully. So this is why I always studying cinema or big directors, everything. What do they do? What do they do uh, with the camera positions? What do they do with the composition and colors and all that? Hopefully, all these intentions or some of these intentions work on page. But this is the kind of things I like to explore when doing when especially with this kind of scripts that need to get the reader in a certain state of mind, you know.
Mhm.
This kind of, as Mark says, these are fables and parables. So this is, you have to punch, you have to create a certain effect on the reader. You can fail because it's too short. These are the tools that I choose to tell this kind of stories.
Definitely. Now, Mark, finally, what would you say is the one consistent theme throughout well, I would say through all the books. We've only went through four of them so far. But what would you say is the consistent theme?
The question of what it is to have a meaningful life, the question of what it is for you to really, truly feel that you are alive as a being.
Excellent. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for definitely putting this together. Thank you for issue 4, Jock. Mark, I know you're continuing this. I believe it's 6 issues, right?
Yep.
6 issues. Can't wait for the fifth and the sixth. If anybody out there has not gotten their hands on Vanishing Point and has had a chance to read this anthology, it's brilliant. It's definitely a book that once you finish an entire issue, you'll start to think more and more about the aspects of not only humanity but maybe even your own psyche. But I appreciate you too for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks so much, and thanks also to Matt Kay for giving me the opportunity to work with Mark and doing this wonderful issue. Uh, Thanks so much.
All right. Well, for everybody here at the Faqs Project, of course, get your hands on Vanishing Point. It is now at issue 4. It's going to be a 6 issue series for Mad Cave Studios. So be on the lookout for the last 2 issues, issue 5 in October and issue 6 in November. So for all of us here at the Faqs Project, we will see you guys next time. We are out.